This conference will now be recorded.
And let me set your expectation for today. I am going to talk about 100 miles an hour. And the reason why is there's a lot of amazing content. You guys are going to be incredibly encouraged today and really stoked and excited. One thing that I know about me, and it's just my calling and purpose as a coach, is that every time I speak, I expect it to be catalytic in someone's life. And I believe that if you grab a hold of what we're talking about today, that it will be a game changer for you, not only as a coach, but also as a person. Because a lot of the things that, if I was going to tell you what you need to do in your life, if I gave you 5 things that you needed to do as a coach or 365 things, a lot of people have a hard time moving forward and taking steps towards the things that they're supposed to do. It's not about a how-to. If how-tos were your problem, you could have already gotten every bit of information that I'm going to give you today from some kind of way. The how-tos aren't really the problem for us. The heart level, where we live on a heart level and what we really believe, is actually the things that keep us from being able to move forward and be the people that we want to be and do the things that we want to do. And so we're going to be going after mindsets while at the same time being very practical. This will give you a taste of what our Jumpstart program is really about, because it really takes both sides. And unfortunately, in most cases, when you go to coach training school, you only learn about how to coach. And what you'll find about coaching is it's about 90%, it's about 10% coaching. It's about 90% your mindset and business. That's what you're really going to find. And so that's the real difference maker of the people who are really successful as coaches and the ones who are struggling. It is all about mindset, and it's all about just knowing the practical steps of what you need to do about your business. I have full confidence that all of you can be amazing coaches. That's the easy part. The challenging part is, do you have things that are in the way? Are you out of alignment between head, heart, and your spirit that keeps you from really being able to move forward? So I'm going to say a lot of stuff today, and I'm going to talk really fast, but we are recording this. So if you want a link to the replay, just send me an email. You see it on the screen, paul@ilifecoachtraining.com. I'll make sure you get a link to the replay. Also, you guys didn't know that you're going to get this. I love to reward people who are taking time out of their day. 98% of our students work full time. And so I know that that is a sacrifice for you, that you have a lot of different things going on. I would love to reward you for that. We already have a really affordable program. It's only $195 to get certified through Life Coach Training Institute. And it's our program. We were pioneers in online education. That's why we're the #1 program across the globe, and we're also the largest life coach training program in North America. We've already certified 500 coaches this year. The average program certifies between 0 to 30 maximum in an entire calendar year. And how we've been able to do that, among other things, is not only do we have a program that teaches you coaching proficiency, and not only is it affordable, but it's self-paced. And so you get to, we don't have start and end dates. You actually get to determine your destiny as far as those things are concerned. It's to do that, it's a 10-module online program where everything's on video, but it's also transcribed. And there are activities at the end of each one of those modules to teach you, help you really grasp the core competencies as a coach. And it concludes with an exam. And when you score above 70% on the exam, then you've earned your credential. But we also have a Jumpstart program. And the cool thing about Jumpstart is that it actually includes the same life coach certification course. So you do get certified, but it's a 20-module business development roadmap. And we show you everything from how do you discover your target market, how do you discover your niche, how do you sell, how do you have an explosive first coaching session that demonstrates to that potential client that you can actually help them. It convinces them that you can help them. And you're also able to answer objections. You're able to learn how to do a 1-minute pitch. If you went into a networking group today, how would you pitch yourself? Could you do that in 60 seconds or less and be convincing in your presentation and really move that relationship a step further? So all of these things that we really include, there's business development tools at the end of each one of those modules, and We have an online community, so you can role play with other students. You can get feedback on things that you're working on. We do mentoring, so every Wednesday we do that through a group call where I answer every coaching and business related question. That way, our students always have the support, and they always know what their next step is. That program is normally $99 a month, but with a 35% off discount code, you can get it for $65 a month. Now, here's the thing: is that code's only going to be good for the next 3 days. The reason why I only do it for 3 days, and it's just because of human nature for the most part. I know that most of you are not going to take a step into a coaching career right now. Why is that? Because I just know, because I've coached and worked with thousands of people over the years. And change is hard, and most of the time our disqualifiers are here. It's never about money, and it is never about your abilities or anything else. It's sometimes that we have disqualifiers that are going on because there's I'm going to mute everyone really quick because a couple of people keep turning their microphone on and there's background noise coming in. And so what we're doing is we're really going after those things in our program, because we know that if you knew what to do, that's one important part. But to be consistent and to follow through means we have to really go after those things. And so I know this. We do the discount code good for 3 days because most of you will make a decision in the next 24 hours. Very few of you will make a decision 3 days from now. And it's the same reason why I tell our coaches, when you do a session with a potential client, if you do a free session, you make sure that your follow-up is within 3 days, because honestly, we have default mechanisms in us that are self-sabotaging, and that's what really kicks in within a few days. If you don't get your heart engaged, you can't actually make the changes that you want to make in your life. And so anyway, if you want that discount code, it will have expired in 3 days. That's why it's not on the screen. But Paul at iLifeCoachTraining.com. I'll get that over to you. But let's jump in. Enough of all of that talk. Let's do some mindset shifting on the front end. First mindset shift is that it is never, ever about the money. It's not about the money for you. It's not about the money for your potential clients. And speaking of money, because some of you we're talking about fees, right? I would love to hear from you really quickly. And if you would jump on the chat widget, what do you believe that the average fee is for a first year coach? Like, you're starting out, let's say that you started your coaching practice in the next few weeks or the next couple of months. You get certified and you get started. What fee are you thinking about charging? Or what fee do you think is the going rate? I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and jump on the chat widget. Shiara says $75 to $100 an hour. Let's see what the rest of you think. And again, this is first year coaches. And let's say that you just got certified and you're starting out. Let me get, I saw you do your, Tashante says $100 an hour or $100 per session. What else do the rest of you think? How much per session? And usually a session is about an hour in length. So how much do you think an hour? Lisa says 75 an hour. What do the rest of you guys think? Want to see what that is, and then and that way that'll give us some. I want to find out where you're at with that thing, and then we'll be able to really build on that. Satomi says 50 to 75 per session, and we'll give it about 10 more seconds. Deborah says $250 per hour. Natasha says $100 for individuals and $50 a person in a group. Anybody else? We'll give it about 5 more seconds. Stacy says 50. Okay, so here's the thing. My goal is going to be a few different things on this. One is that all of you, when we walk out of here, are going to charge much higher rate than what you're talking about right now. That's the first thing, because all of you are way low. You're all really low, okay? And that should be really encouraging for you. Let me tell you this on the front end, because I'm not giving anything away when I tell you this. The average first year coach is charging between $118 to $128 per session. And you're not ending with me right now, because actually Jumpstart students, so people who graduate from our Jumpstart program at Life Coach Training Institute, are charging anywhere between between double to to more than quadruple what the average first-year coaches from other programs are graduating with. And part of it's this mindset shifting that we need to operate in today, which first of all is that it is never about the money. Why people do work with you as a coach, when someone decides to work with a coach, it's really going to come out of a few factors. First of all, is they believe that you can help them. That's the first thing. The second thing is that it is a critical time in their life that there is a pain point for whatever they want, whatever they desire, whatever it is, it's finally critical that they do something about it. That is why someone makes a decision to work with a coach. A coaching relationship is born out of them believing that you can help them, and secondly, that they have gotten to a threshold that it is time right now to do something about it. It's never about the money. How do I know that? Well, here's an example. If there's plenty of people who right now are working and they have a little bit of sniffles. I heard a couple of people talking just a little bit earlier, and I can hear some of the sniffles, but you're at work and you're doing something right now. Because what do? When we have the sniffles, we have a little bit of aches and pains and everything else. We take ibuprofen or whatever, and we're going to push through because we're like, I don't have time to get sick. I'm going to go to work and get everybody else sick or whatever. We push through until there comes a point where the pain point gets so high where we actually go to the doctor. And you know what that means? It means that everything else is off the table. It means that work is off the table. Taking care of a lot of things is completely off the table. Now it's become a priority. And it's not about money. It's not about anything else. It's about when we get to a point where enough is enough and we're going to do something about that. And when you're ready to do something about what is painful or what you really desire in your life, then it means that money's not really an issue anymore. Kind of like today, if let's say that you had some kind of rare disease and you went to the doctor and you said, listen, 100%, the doctor says 100% chance that you are going to die from this disease, 100%. But there is a cure, and there's 100% chance that if you get this cure that you're going to be well. But here's the problem, is that the cure is going to cost you $250,000 and it's not covered under any of your insurance. Now, here's what I believe. I believe that pretty much 100% of you are going to sit there and you're not going to be like, that doesn't fit in the budget right now. It's not a priority right now, and you're going to just go about your life. No, you know what you're going to do? You're going to say, I don't care what the cost is. My life is more valuable than this, and we're going to figure out a way to make it work. Whether it's a GoFundMe, you will get incredibly creative when you have finally gotten to that point. And so this is the important thing for us to understand, that anybody that we work with, it is never about the money. It really isn't. Why people work with you is they've gotten to that threshold that they actually want to do something. And it's critical that they get to that point, because people who don't want anything in their life and they don't want change will not stay consistent on the path that they're supposed to be on anyway. The other thing that's really easy to prove is that we can help people. Coaching does help people. It's really, really easy. All I really need to do is have a coaching session with them, and then I prove it to them. I never have to sell coaching. I only have to sell the result, and I only have to demonstrate it. So that's the first thing. It's never about the money. Coaching clients do not shop price. So they're not going to look on Yelp. They're not going to look on LinkedIn. They're not going to do a Google search for the cheapest coach in their area. And they're also not comparing your fee to someone else, because that's not because coaching is relational. It's not a product. Your coaching fee is actually based on two things. It's based on the benefit and the value that the client receives. So I'm going to bring you through about 4 different things, and we're going to get really super practical, but we have to do some mindset shifting, because right now, most of us do not have, and I can tell you by the fees that you guys were telling me in the chat, you don't have the value for yourself and what you bring to the table to charge the fees that you need to. Matter of fact, here's what I'll also tell you. For those of you who are throwing your fees up, and I'm not knocking anyone, okay? So it's really important that we don't get sensitive about these things, because I'm going to help you get breakthrough in this thing today. When we're saying things, when we're telling people what our fees are, $50, $75, $100, $150 an hour, whatever it is, if you do not understand your own worth, then the first thing that you're going to feel when you start to say what your fee is, even if it's only $50 an hour, is you're going to feel awkward. You're going to feel weird about it. You're actually going to start to feel guilt about it. And most coaches, as much as they preach about how everybody needs to value and have self-love, that is one thing that they really lack, is they lack their own personal value. So they'll actually start cutting their fees and making excuses for and downgrading their fees or whatever, because they really don't have that value and worth in themselves yet. And so your fee, first of all, is based on the benefit and the value that the client receives. And what do I mean by that? And here's the thing, I'm going to show, when I use this example, and for those of you who are joining us by phone, I'll tell you what's on the screen. We're looking at 3 gasoline brands: ARCO, Shell, and Exxon. And here's the thing, is that the prices, we should really update those things, because we would all love to pay only $2.50 for a gallon of gas in the United States right now, especially in California. I saw the cheapest price that I've seen in a really long time, and that price yesterday was still almost $3.50 a gallon in California. So if we look at the screen right now, and we did different prices, ARCO, Shell, and Exxon, and without even revealing the prices, just telling you the brands, you guys would probably say, well, I know that ARCO is generally the cheapest. Shell and Exxon are going to be more expensive. How do people decide if they're going to pay $2.15 a gallon, or the highest rate on here, which is $2.51? How do they decide? Well, it's really decided based on the value that they see in the gas themselves. It's always about value. Even about gas, it is never about money. It is about the value that people see in it. So the people who would pay the most would say, I value my car and I want the best gas. That's why people would decide to do the mid-range gas or the premium gas, is all based on value. If I value my car, then I am going to get the best gas. Now, here's the other thing. If somebody believes that, yeah, there's some subtle differences in gas, but for the most part, all gas is equal, and I'm only going to pay what I have to. And so that's what people are going to do. What are they going to do? They're going to drive around, or they're going to use the Gas Buddy app on their phone, and they're going to find the cheapest gas, and they're only going to pay what they have to, because what some people are thinking is that gas shouldn't be so expensive. These oil companies are making ridiculous money off of us and all kinds of things like that. So they really believe that all gas at the end of the day is equal. And there's some people who believe that if the best gas is the cheapest gas, then they will buy it. Now, here's the funny thing. Let me show you how it's about value. A lot of you are coffee drinkers. Any coffee drinkers in the room? Probably a lot of you. A lot of you will go to different brands. You might go to Starbucks or a Pete's or a Coffee Bean or whatever is in your area or whatever. You'll go to the name brand kind of coffee places, or you'll go to a local place where you know the coffee is really good. A cup of coffee, and particularly if I go down the street and I go get a latte, I know that I'm at least paying $4 for that latte, and if I leave a tip, then it's going to be whatever that $4 plus a tip is. Here's the thing, is that a latte is going to be about 12 to 16 ounces of coffee. Here's why I can prove to you that it's about value. You will pay for a cup of coffee, you will pay $4, not even thinking about it, for a cup of coffee, because that's what you value it by. But you won't pay for an entire gallon of gas that has been refined off the coast of Mobile, Alabama, or wherever that refinery is. They're going way down and they're digging stuff out of the ground below the ocean, and they bring it back and refine it and distribute it. You won't pay for that, but you'll pay for for coffee made by someone who might be an amateur at making coffee and all of those kinds of things. Why? It's about value. If I stood outside of Starbucks and I held a gallon of coffee and I said, don't go in Starbucks and buy that, I'll give you an entire gallon for what you're going to pay for that latte, all of you would laugh at me. You would walk past me. It seems a little bit insane, but it's not. It's about what we value. It's not about price. It is not about money. It's not, and so your fee is really going to be based on what they value. That's why you won't pay $3.50 for a gallon of coffee from me, but you will go and pay that with no problem from the barista at Starbucks right inside the door. That's what it's really about. Now, here's what you've got to understand. Where there's no value, there's no loyalty. There's actually no relationship that is involved. And so it's just a transaction. But with coaching, it's actually a relationship. You can't just drive around the street and look for coaches and say, I'm going to go with who is the lowest price. That's not why someone's going to choose a coach. They're not going to look at your price and look at mine and decide to go with you. It's going to be about the value that they see in you and believing this person brings real value to me and they can actually help me change my life and get what I want. So that's why they will choose you. So that's why your fee, you're never competing with what anybody else is doing. I don't care what somebody else is charging. I need to know what my worth is, and I need to bring extraordinary value to people. So that's the first thing, is value. Now, your fee is also based on benefits. So in addition to value, it's about the benefit that we bring, what coaching brings to people. And here's the example that I'll give you. If we all loaded up and we went down the street, and let's say, and I don't have an iPhone. I don't like Apple products. I've got a Google Pixel. Let's say that we go down the street and we're going to get a new phone. We all load up the car and we go to Verizon and we go in the store and we're all going to get the latest iPhone. So we're all standing in a line, and I want you to understand there's at least 20 of us in the room together right now. If we all got in a big line and we go up to the counter, do you realize that all 20 of us, if we want the same phone and the same plan, that we're going to all pay the same price? I don't know if you realize this, but they're not going to look at my income and look at your income and someone else's, and that we all get a lower rate because of what our income is. They're going to charge us all the same thing. Matter of fact, if your credit isn't that good, you'll actually pay more than someone who has more money. That's the crazy thing about it. And so what this really comes down to is that we're all going to pay the same price. Why is that important? Well, here's why. A lot of you think I need to charge a lower fee because these people don't have as much money. We do all this reasoning. What it really is it's fear that we're not going to get paid what we're worth. So we start doing all of this reasoning. Well, this person can't afford this or whatever. Listen, people already afford whatever they want. I went on a walk with my daughter some weeks ago. And there's this area, we have this area in town called Rooster Creek, and they have all these roosters that are just wild out there. It's the weirdest thing in the world. But we go down there, and there is this deck that is literally by a creek, and so you have this wooden area that you're walking down, and we're walking, we start hearing someone talking like right below us, and it kind of startled us when we were going down this deck. And what we saw was a homeless guy who had a bed underneath the deck, and he's over there with the latest, greatest technology, talking and surfing the web on his phone. Now, a lot of us would look at that guy and be like, I think a better investment for him would be, I can see him having a text phone, but shouldn't he be paying for a hotel room? Shouldn't he be doing this with all that money? We can't judge that. You know why? Because we don't know what kind of benefit that guy is getting out of having a phone. I can't judge that. You can't judge it by what somebody wears, what they drive, what kind of house that they live in. So even an individual that's financially challenged will sacrifice for what they value and how it benefits them. This is a really important thing for you to get, because again, it's never about the money. It's about value and benefits. This is why that excuse of, well, I need to go look in my budget or whatever, that is a complete myth. Everybody knows what's in their budget. What people have in their budget and what they sacrifice and they cut out of their budget is what matters most to them. It means that the difference of if somebody has cable or if they don't have cable, if they choose to have high-speed internet or not at their house, if they choose whatever they're choosing in their life is based on what they really value. If it's eating out, if it's drinking coffee every day or whatever, everybody's already spending money on what they value and what they benefit. And the important thing for you is you should never be apologetic for the fact that somebody feels something, that they feel it when that transaction is happening. When they are paying for their fee, if they don't feel it, if it's their side money or it's their mad money, whenever that money is gone, when everything does get a little bit tighter or they need to tighten things up around the holidays or whatever, you get cut out of the deal. And I'm not willing to be someone's mad money. I don't want to be someone's side project money. You know why? Because that means that they don't value it. It means that they're not going to get the change out of it. If I'm going to get cut out, then this is not really a priority in their life. And here's the thing that you guys all need to get is that it is really, really easy. It is really, really easy to become a six-figure coach off of just a handful of clients. It's much harder to make $50,000 a year off of 30 clients that are getting cut rate coaching. You know why? Because they're not getting change in their life, because they don't value you, because you don't value yourself to start with. And that means that you will be cut out because they're not really committed to their transformation. Here's what I'll tell you. Change, we all know change happens in the heart, right? But the heart's connected to the wallet, and that's a spiritual principle. I can't change that. That's just the reality of how things move in the entire universe, is that change happens in the heart, and the heart is connected to the wallet. We will always invest in what is important to us. And if someone's going to get change and they don't feel that investment, if they don't feel that sacrifice that's going on, then they don't value it, and they won't stay accountable to their process, and they definitely won't stay accountable to you. And so it's just really, really important. Do not shortchange other people's transformation because you're afraid to charge your rate. Don't worry about other people. People are going to be, you're not going to take people's food money away or anything else. But it does mean that people need to recalibrate their life around what they say is important. Because if I go into your bank account, I can find out what you're truly committed to and what truly is important to you. Because you will make that work out. Whether it's going to school or whatever it is in your life, people invest in what matters to them. And what matters to them is what gets done. And the reason why people aren't going after things in their life is because they haven't crossed that threshold yet where it really matters enough to be able to do it. So it's important for your fees to be high enough because you want people to get change in their life. And if your fee is lower, the lower the fee, the lower the change that people are going to get in their life. The higher the fee, the higher the change, because people will be committed to it and doing whatever they need to do. Our goal as coaches is to add value to people and to show them how we can benefit them, and this happens long before they ever become clients. So that's your goal. Your goal is never to sell coaching, and it's not to worry about all of those other kinds of things. This is really, really important for you to understand that long before they become clients, I can add value and I can show what I do, how what I do benefits them, because what that does is that it increases your value, and it also connects them with their heart for what they say really matters to them. Okay, we got that? All right. Now here's the next thing. Your fee communicates a perceived value. So what I'm saying in this is that whatever fee you say to the world, and we saw some fees a little bit earlier on the chat widget. If I look back in that, what we could probably assume that if I stuck my fee out there, knowing what I know, believing in myself as I believe in myself, the value that I believe that I bring to people, if we put everybody's fees that were out there, then what most people will look at the fees and just assume, based on the number, that you must be, if your fee is the highest out of everybody on the chat widget, then congratulations, you must be the best coach. because your fee communicates a perceived value. What I mean by that is this: if right now, if we had two pairs of tennis shoes, and I held them up in front of you right now, and I held up a pair of Nike tennis shoes, and I held up a pair of Champion tennis shoes, I would ask you guys, which one's more valuable than the other? The Nike tennis shoes or the Champions? Well, pretty much 100% of you are going to say, well, the Nike tennis shoes are worth more than the Champions. And I'm like, really? Well, what is that based on? Where are you coming up with that? And you might argue some different things, because a lot of times when coaches are starting out, and especially if they know that they are a rookie coach, they start thinking that, well, my fee should be based on how much education and training that I've had. My fee should be based on the fact that I haven't been doing this as long as someone else. So someone who's been doing this longer should be charging more or whatever. They have all of these things that they think that they're supposed to be basing their fee out of. And a lot of times when we look at a product like Nike versus Champions, we might say, well, Nike, isn't it a different material than the Champions? And well, no, not really. Champion tennis shoes are made out of the same material: glue, rubber, lace, nylon, all of these different kinds of things. So they're made out of the same product. Some of you might say, oh, well, maybe it's because of experience and professional skill that these people have a higher level of expertise who are working on it. Well, here's what I know about that. I know that people who make Nike tennis shoes are making literally like 25 cents an hour or something like that. And I'm not trying to make a social justice argument for that, but it's not based on their expertise, because Nike thinks so low about that they go into another country and they get people who are impoverished or have a low value for themselves, and they charge them pennies on the dollar, because maybe it looks like they're valuing them based on their own economy, but they're not valuing them based on the American worker or the American consumer who is valuing. They're saying, man, to put this thing together, I shouldn't have to pay more than 25 cents an hour. Nike could charge people more, but they don't, because they realize, and here's the thing, is that you're not paying for someone's expertise when it comes to buying tennis shoes. What are you basing it on? Well, here's what you're basing it on. You're basing it on what Nike is telling you their shoes are worth. That's why you pay as much as you do for Nikes, is because Nike told you that's what their shoe is worth. Back in the 80s, because I'm about to turn 44 years old, some kind of a child of the 80s. I lived in a town where 35% of the city lived below the poverty line, and my family was in that 35%. So there weren't a whole lot of options back then. There weren't very many jobs. We're in a recession. Gas prices were spiking. All of this other stuff. Nike comes out with Air Jordans, and they told everybody these shoes are going to cost $100 a pair. Well, what did all of us do? We all laughed and we're like, it's the 80s, because who pays $100 for a pair of tennis shoes? Rich people who have a lot of money, people who are just frivolously spending their money, because the average person wouldn't pay $100 for a pair of tennis shoes, not in the 80s. Well, what happened? Well, when basketball season rolled around, all of us had a pair of Nike tennis shoes. All of us poor kids. All of us poor white kids. Well, I'm not really white. I'm actually Palestinian by heritage and everything. But all of us had Nike tennis shoes. And Nike didn't tell us that you'll jump higher. They didn't tell us that you can hit free throws or anything else. They just put the Michael Jordan little logo on it, and we all paid it, because it is about perception. Nike told us what they were worth. You will not find Nike tennis shoes at Payless Shoe Source, because Nike says that the people who go to Payless are not our customers. If you're only going to pay $20, $25 for a pair of tennis shoes, then go to Payless and get a pair of Champion tennis shoes. That is Payless's customer base. But Nike says, if you want ours, you're going to go to a nice shoe store and you're going to buy our shoes there. You're going to go to a sporting goods store. And we're okay with the fact that those are the people that we are after. And you know what? They are a billion-dollar company easily, and it's because of perceived value. How else does this show up? Well, let's think about how it shows up in the workplace. We have attorney number one and attorney number two. Attorney number two charges $1,000 an hour. Attorney number one charges $75 an hour. And I say, which attorney do you want to work with? Well, all of you are going to say, well, I want to work with attorney number two. If they're charging $1,000 an hour, then they must be the best, right? The assumption is when they have that fee out there, they're the best. They're winning all their court cases. They've went to the most prestigious institution, any number of those things. That's what we assume based on. It's amazing how we can assume that based on the fee, right? Well, what if I told you that attorney number one was actually the one who is the better lawyer of the two? What if I told you that attorney number one actually went to the most prestigious university and really cared about their clients or whatever? What if I told you that was actually true about attorney number one? Well, here's what you can find. And I've known attorneys at both ends of the spectrum, so I can speak to this really well because I've actually coached some of them. Here's what I can tell you about attorney number one that makes $75 an hour. They check all of their own emails and calls. And some of you might be like, you know what? That's what I want. I want an attorney that answers all my calls and checks all of my emails. Well, let me tell you this from a business perspective. We want to have a wealth mentality rather than a poverty mentality. And a poverty mentality means that this guy or this lady needs to be under my thumb and needs to respond to all of my emails and phone calls. I need to have them. I'm paying all this money. And you know what I feel like? I feel like they're stealing from me. I don't really value them. And so here's what happens is that when the fee is really low and everything else, it means that this person is checking all their own emails and calls, and they're overloaded with work. You know why? Because they can't pay a support staff. And what it also means is that the squeaky wheel gets the most grease. That means that the person who is abusing them the most is the one who's getting the majority of their time. It means that your case isn't actually getting worked on. They don't have more clients. Even though their fee is lower, they don't have more clients than attorney number two. You know why? Because they can't build their business. They can't work with that many people. I'll tell you this, it is much easier to find 5 clients who will pay you a premium than 50 people who will pay you for cut rate coaching, because you will be like attorney number one that likely has clients that don't value them and they don't pay. Let me tell you this, is it really, really important is that I know these kinds of attorneys and I know how they live. And in attorney number two that makes $1,000 an hour, they have a support staff. They're probably getting the best and brightest. They're cherry picking them out of the best schools, and they have them working as paralegals and working within their firm that are going to be the best and the brightest in the future, and they're learning under them, and they're in a culture of excellence, and so they're not going to miss little things there. They have as many clients as they need, because attorney number one has to struggle and has to worry about losing one of their cut rate clients. That's why they are enduring abuse from them all the time. But attorney number two gets to work with whoever they want to, and they can choose that. If somebody doesn't value them, then they can say, hey, you know what? It's not worth it. You mistreat me. You're kind of ugly. You're ugly to my staff. I don't need that. Why don't you go pick someone else? Matter of fact, I'll give you your money back, because it's that much more that you're such a pain that would be easier for me to give you your money back that you've already invested, because that would be less painful than having to deal with your abuse and those kinds of things. Attorney number two works a fraction of the time, because attorney number one has to work about 12 hours to make what attorney number two is. And again, attorney number two chooses who they work with. Who do you want to be as a coach? Do you want to choose who you work with, or do you want to be in a position? Because here's the thing, all of us, because I'll tell you, in my past, I had regular jobs. Now I had some jobs that I went up the ladder really quickly, and I did some stuff in leadership, and then I actually took a pay cut to take some regular jobs, because my wife had some like terrible health stuff, and so I'd taken a regular job that it was less of a demand in terms of leadership, but I was kind of like took a position that there was 20 other people who were up for the exact same position. you know, because you guys have all been like me, have been HR'd to death. This position is worth $25 an hour. There's 30 people who could work in this position. And if you leave that position, they're just going to find somebody else who will fill it. They're not going to give you, you know what? They're not going to look at your life and be like, you know what? We were looking at your resume and we see that you have overcome the odds consistently in your life. We've been watching you over the last 6 months, and you are an extraordinary team player, and you know how to bring unity to the team. We've been noticing that you've been working so hard, and that you keep grabbing and helping people in other projects. You know what? We're thinking about giving you a $10,000 a year raise because you bring so much to the table. You know that you're never going to hear that. You're going to have it doesn't, because you're not valued. We've never been taught to be valued by what we bring to the table or anything else. We've been taught to be valued by a position. And that's why our raises are in most cases are less than 3% a year, and all of those other kinds of things that we're barely keeping up with inflation. You're actually losing money. We think that it's being responsible staying in the position that we are. We're actually losing money every year that we work for somebody else. That's kind of the thing. But we have been HR'd to death in this kind of thing, to the point that most people don't know what their value is. That's why when you start out as a coach, I don't care if you're a brand new coach. Are you a brand new human being? Don't you bring a lot of skills that are transferable into coaching? Don't you bring an incredible history of what you're going to bring to the table? Nobody who starts out as coaching, what I would find is most coaches had a previous career before they started. A lot of coaches don't even start until their 40s. And that means that we are bringing in listening skills, wisdom, perspective to be able to ask those questions, all of these other things. None of you were born yesterday. And it's time, at a certain point in your life, it is time for you to actually be paid for what you're worth and what you bring to the table. The responsibility, the ownership, the love that you have for humanity, the fact that you are living in your purpose, the fact that you're choosing to work with people, that you are in love with this group of people as a target market, and you will do your best to work with those people. See, this is a thing that we have never been told our entire life, is that you can actually get paid to do what you love. And it doesn't have to feel like work, and it doesn't have to feel like you're a beggar or you're begging people to pay you what you are worth. No, you are worth it. You have extraordinary value, and when you are living in your purpose and your sweet spot, you should be rewarded handsomely for that. Coaching's not some kind of like random whatever thing that people don't need. Here's how badly people need it. 85% of people, maybe you're one of those people, 85% of people hate their jobs. More than half of the population of the planet is unsatisfied with their life. 9 out of 10 people don't know what their purpose is. And 9 out of the 10 people who do are not going after it. There is people are living so below what their potential is, and they're living lives that are so meaningless that they are scrolling all day through social media, looking at everybody else's life, and that is not okay, because when I see human beings, I see unlimited potential, and I really do believe in people to be able to achieve and do some of the things that they're supposed to do. Why are we unsatisfied with the political leaders that we have and different things that we see in the world? It's because the real champions are living below what they were made to do. And it means that it is invaluable to come and partner with people and to bring life and to hold up the mirror and say, you've got this. You can absolutely do this. I believe in you. Here's how. Here's the steps that we're going to take. And you know what? I'm going to walk alongside you, and I'm going to keep you accountable for your greatness. See, the world's not seeing us in our greatness yet. They will see you manifest greatness when you take the step across the chicken line and become a coach. And now it's time for you to bring other people across that. See, a lot of people, they may not feel like they are in slavery in their life or in bondage to things, but they're also not entering their promise. They're in this transition point in their life. And most people will be in that transition place of, I'm not that person anymore, but I'm also not living into my destiny. That's why we get paid the big bucks, because most people are going at it alone. They are cruising into their weekend, taking a paycheck, and they are sacrificing their dreams and their destiny at the altar of responsibility, of fear, of any number of things. And this is why it's important for us to charge the fees that we do and everything else, because this is what we do for people. And it's time for us. Self-worth starts with us. It starts with me believing that I believe something about myself. It means that I need to have another voice. Listen, if HR has been telling you what you're worth, if your bad relationship with your father has been informing you of what your worth is, or whatever it is, your education or any of those other things, name that voice, and you need to shut it down and get a new voice that's speaking life over you. When that altered and changed for me, because I had so many layers of it based on the upbringing that I had, based on the place that I lived where everybody was in poverty. We had one traffic light in this little agricultural town that I grew up in, and no one ever left the place. I can go back to that place and I can find almost everybody that I grew up with living in the exact same place. And we believed wrong things about people who live in California and a lot of other places. And when I started getting around and I started seeing what was really possible, but the reality is that my heart wasn't aligned with, I could see what was possible. And there was something in me that said, Paul, you're here for something more. But my heart was out of alignment. When we start going after this programming and stop saying no, because these things are start to come up, when we start dealing with those things, then we can be who we know that we're made to be. Now, here's the last part. Let's get really, really practical. Your fees got to be based on your personal goals. You need to have goals and know that your fee actually helps you achieve that goal. So what is that? Well, is your goal simply to go full-time, or is it to go part-time? When I started out as a coach, I didn't believe that I could be an entrepreneur or anything, because most of us as coaches are risk averse. And so I'm like, man, I'll never be able to make it on my own or whatever. So I just thought that I would just be a part-time coach. Listen, if you love the job that you're working in and you want to add on coaching, hey, that's fine too. But know what your goal is. Is your goal to get some margin in your life? Is your goal to become a full-time coach? We need some kind of an end game. I don't think that you need to have 5 years in advance, but I do think that in the first year, you need to know what that goal is. And you need to think about how much money you want to make. How much do you need to make? How many hours do you want to work? That's actually, here's the thing, here's a game changer for you maybe in your mindset. Maybe you're thinking of your fee that you guys were saying earlier of working 40 hours a week. Why is that your value? Who taught you the value for 40 hours a week? 40-hour work week is not actually my value. I work 25 hours a month. And it's passionate work, and I work hard in those 25 hours, but it never feels like work. I love what I do. That's what my value. I realized at a certain point that it's like, where did this 40-hour work week or working 50 hours work, whose value is that? Because it's not mine. What if you only worked, decided you only wanted to work a handful of hours a week? It's actually an option for you. Let's quit living with limited mindsets and limited options. You have a lot of options in your life with regard to this. And these are things that you've got to think about when you're setting your goal. Now, let's think about this. Let's say our sample goal as a part-time coach is $20,000, which I will say this, and this is what we teach you in the Life Coach Certification course, is that big goals are actually achieved more than small goals are. But let's just say that it's $20,000 a year. How many hours do you want to work a week, and what are your overhead expenses? Because honestly, with coaching, you don't really have a lot of overhead expenses. You don't have to pay for an office or any of those other kinds of things. You might coach somebody at a cafe or a coffee shop or something like that. You don't need any of those things, but you do need to factor in soft cost. Like if I had to drive 20 minutes to coach someone, and then I'm coaching them, and then I drive 20 minutes afterwards, then there's 40 minutes that's unaccounted for. So I need to factor that into my fees and those kinds of things, okay? So think about your overhead expenses that in most cases are going to be soft costs. Now, simple math. This is easy math, okay? If we want to make $20,000 in our first year as a part-time coach, let's say that I only want to work 10 hours a month. There's 12 months in a year. That means that I only worked 120 hours for that entire calendar year to make $20,000. What would my fee be based on that? It's $166 an hour. That's essentially 3 clients. And when I say 3 clients, You're not even working with those people every week. You're working with 3 clients for 10 hours. So obviously you're not working every week with each one of those clients at that rate. So that means that I only need to get 3 clients to make $20,000 if I charge this fee, which I will still tell you is well below what the average first-year coach from Jumpstart charges. But I just want you to know that you need to be thinking of your value, your worth, and then thinking about what you want to, because here's the thing, is that if you're only charging $50, $75 an hour, maybe that's what you are, maybe that's double what you're making right now. I don't know what you make right now. Maybe that sounds like a really good rate, but it may not get you to your goals. And here's why. Let's look at the goal comparison. If you have an arbitrary number like $75 a session, you need to work 22 hours a month in order to make $20,000 as a part-time coach. That's quite a few hours, I think, as a part-time coach, because you're working full-time, and let's say you're working an additional 20 hours a month. That's really not that much. It's like 5 hours a week, but you need 6 clients to be able to accomplish that. And so I don't know that $75 a session will get you to your goal. The $166 a session means that I only need to maintain 3 clients as I'm working full-time. I'm going to make $20,000 only having 3 clients. But what's keeping you from charging more? If you can charge 166, what's keeping you from charging 225? That's 7.5 hours a month, and you only need to have 2 people. Listen, there's 7.5 billion people on the planet. You can't get you 2 people out of the entire planet to agree to pay you $225 a session. I don't believe that. That would be a very limited mindset. But what's keeping you from $500 a session? One of our Jumpstart coaches, his first client. I'll actually show you because we're on slide 26. Let me go back a little bit. Let me go back to this one. He started with us in January. His first client, he charged $1,000 a session. Brand new coach, guy in his 20s, lives in Michigan. You can check out his website. He's a legit dude, fulfillinglifeyearnings.com. I didn't have that kind of value for myself when I started. I am thankful that he got it and he found it, because you will always attract people by whatever you put out there. Listen, you will find somebody who will pay you $10 an hour, $15 an hour, $20 an hour, $30 an hour. You can find somebody who'll pay you $300 an hour. All of those people exist, but it's all going to be based on, but you will be treated appropriately based on what you say that what your worth is. You will attract the people based on what you believe that you are worth, and that may or may not get you to your goal. And so hopefully with all of this, again, this is so important because mindset is everything in this deal. Mindset and your steps is 90% of coaching. The other tiny percent is the skills that you learn to get certified. And that's why we go so far and beyond in that in our Jumpstart program. Let me just I'm gonna ask you some more questions here, but let me say this really quickly. Are any of you, and let's see it on the chat widget right now, are any of you started with a fee earlier? Has your fee changed now? Let's see, where were you at before, but what do you believe that you would charge now? Let me see it light up on the chat widget, because I want to believe that some mindsets that we, even in 1 hour, we were able to cover some real hurdles. What would you charge now? What was the fee that you started with? And are you going to charge more now? Do you feel encouraged and validated, affirmed now? See, like Satomi's sitting at $750 a session now. Where were you at when we started? Where are you at right now? This is really critical, because we need to marry this with action, okay? Where were we at before? Where are we at now? What do we really believe, and what will we boldly go out there for? Let me see some of those fees. Satomi says 750. Deborah says 750 to 1,000. Man, that's so encouraging. Way to go, Deborah. Anybody else? Where's your fee moving to right now? Come on, we want to see it. Let's get you to move on this thing, okay? Let's own this thing because Chiara says 250. Let's own it. Let's embrace this thing because this is how we start breaking the mindsets. Is that we've got to quit going out of brokenness. We need to quit going out of this stuff. Let's move forward. What else are you guys saying? Anybody else? Your fee has changed since earlier. Where are we at? Chiara says 250. What about for the rest of you guys? Has it changed? What kind of an upgrade are you feeling? Elizabeth says, I want to make a six-figure income, 175 an hour at 20 hours a week. That's good. What if you only work 10 hours a week, though? That's what I'm push it back to you. Where is that value? Who is communicating that value? Is somebody else communicating that value, or are you communicating that value for yourself? This is the shift that we've got to make. Anybody else? Let's see where that boldness is, where you were before and where you are now. Anybody else? Now, let me speak to this really quick, and I'm going to answer any additional questions. You see on the screen, we've got the replay. It's available, paul@ilifecoachtraining.com. We'll have this thing processed. Lisa says 375 to 500. Way to go, Lisa. That's awesome. Now, here's the thing, is if you want to link to the replay, it's paul@ilifecoachtraining.com. And so we'll have that process within the next couple hours. There's a 35% discount code that's available if you email me. I'm not putting it on the screen because it's only good for the next 3 days. Like I said, marry what is going on in your heart with action. The reason why people don't get change in their life is they feel this urgency and they feel this oomph that happens in their life, and they don't marry it with action. Why? Because you have things that are operating on a subconscious level. 99% of the decisions that you will make today will be out of program thinking that is not helping you move forward in your life. Some of you have been thinking about coaching. Some of you have been thinking about other changes in your life, and you still keep doing the same things. Why? It takes a marrying with action and keeping your promises to yourself that you're actually going to do something about it at this stage in your life. It means new thinking creates new actions in your life. Don't allow your programming, don't allow your fear, because here's the reality is as soon as we're over this, your fees, you'll get scared about your fees. You'll get scared about any kind of change. Listen, expect that. Fear doesn't mean that something is wrong. There's a lot of false guilt that most of you are living in. It does not mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you're afraid. And it means that we have got to come against those things because it's normal to be afraid. Listen, my kids started first grade and started high school this year. My oldest has already graduated. She's out of the house. They were all afraid in their first day. Why? They were ready. It didn't mean that fear was going to go away, even though that they were ready. Our program's only $195 to get certified through the Life Coach certification course. There's no start and end dates. It's completely self-paced, fully online, on demand. $195, it's never about the money. It's already affordable. If you use the 35% discount code there, you get it for 127 bucks. If you want Jumpstart. In Jumpstart, we go after these mindsets all the time, while at the same time giving you steps. It's a 20-module business development roadmap, shows you how to target a market, how to create your niche, how to attract clients, how to sell, how to have an explosive first coaching session that's mind-blowing, that demonstrates that you can help people. Shows you how to answer objections. Everything that you can imagine in terms of getting your business up and going. We cover it, and we supplement all that with a group coaching call every Wednesday. I answer every business and coaching related question, and we go after these things consistently. There's an online community where you can role play with other students, get feedback on what you're working on, so you really do have that support. It's normally $99 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. If you use your discount code there, you get it for $65 a month. So you get certified and you get all of this help and everything. And here's the thing, is that I believe that you can do it. You've done harder things than becoming a coach and starting a coaching practice. You've done much harder things than that. But it does mean that we come into this place of where I'm not going to be shut down by old voices, old mindsets, and everything else. I need to marry this thing with action. And most of you who are going to do something different in your life are going to do it within the next 24 hours, because the very nature of some of the programming that we have going on in our life is to keep you exactly where you are. Why are you still in the same place? when you know 30 different things that you could do to change your life, it's because of that old program that's keeping you stuck, and it's designed to keep you there. It's designed to look at fear and any kind of like nervousness as though you can't do something and to run away from it. I'm telling you, run at your destiny. Run after it. And here's the amazing thing, it's because it's such a small fraction of people who will actually do that. At a certain point, you're in rare air, and you're one of the few people who are actually doing the things that they are made to do. So hopefully that's helpful and encouraging kinds of things for you. I want to stick around for a few more minutes and answer any additional questions. It doesn't have to be about fees, but I want to stick around for a few more minutes and answer any other additional questions that you have. But if you're done and you've got to peace out or whatever, I just want you to know I appreciate you guys immensely. I believe in you, and you can absolutely do this thing. So what other questions do we have? And if we don't have any, then we'll head out for the day, but I at least want to give a few minutes for any additional questions. And again, if you're talking and I can't hear you, you just need to turn your microphone on, or you can use the chat widget. Ashley says, is the coaching certificate recognized by the ICF and at what level? No, here's the thing about ICF. Let me give you the lay of the land, because I know a lot of you are doing Google searches and you're still getting informed about coaching, and which is totally normal. A lot of coaches who are starting out are just looking at the first few hits they get up on Google. There are about 20, there's actually more, but there's about 20 off the top of my head of coaching professional organizations that are out there. ICF is the most well marketed, and they're pretty well known. But quite frankly, when it comes to even our school, we have actually done more training. We've trained actually more students than most of these organizations will ever have in their history. I think there's I don't know how many thousands of members that ICF has in it right now. We've already helped 15,000 coaches over the years. And so that's an important thing for you to understand, is like how big something is and some of those other kinds of things. But the important thing is there's a bunch of different professional organizations that are out there. ICF only, you can only get certified through ICF if you go through an ICF program. In ICF program, there's a lot of different things that they require, but not only do they require 60 hours of training, it has to be live training. So you can't get certified through a fully online on-demand program. It means that you will be doing those hours. There's a lot that is involved, and that's why those programs cost thousands of dollars, because there is a lot of overhead. When we started out Life Coach Training Institute, we were doing live training. The overhead's through the roof, because I am very expensive. When you get me live and I'm going and hosting something or working at something, you better believe that I'm going to make thousands of dollars that day when I do it. And not only am I expensive, but there's a lot of overhead expenses that are involved as well. We decided we were going to be pioneers in online education with regard to coaching. So ICF is one of a lot of different professional organizations. They're great. They've done amazing things for coaches. The holes that we've always felt exist in the coaching world. One is that there's not a one-stop shop where I can go and get trained and certified that actually fits within the average person's schedule. 98% of our students work full-time. Those are the people that we really wanted to help. We were going to be pioneers in online education, and we were also going to be, at the same time that we teach coaching proficiency, which I believe that every program, you can learn from any source when it comes to coaching proficiency. You really will. But we were going to be the people who were going to be extraordinary at helping coaches build thriving practices. That is one of the goals that we've charted for ourselves. What you'll find in the coaching world is that in the coaching world, it's kind of academic. It's really big into training and teaching, and you can actually learn from credentialed people who have never been successful in business before. And so that's why when we have a lot of coaches who are getting launched out of those programs, they don't know how to start their business, because all they learned and what everybody focused on was the proficiencies of coaching. And like I said earlier, it's 90% mindset and business and 10% coaching. And when you go to a coaching school, in most cases, you learn it's 90+%. Here's the coaching skills, and it's very little on what you need to do to work in yourself, and also what steps do you need to take to actually build your business. And so that's where we live. That's the place that we've really focused on. When you choose a program and you choose a professional organization, here's the tips that I would give you. First of all, the coaching market does not care and is not educated on coaching or anything else. So even if you join a professional organization or go through a school, the coaching market's very uninformed about coaching, period. I live in California, and everybody thinks that everybody has a life coach and knows about them. Almost no one has a life coach. Almost no one has ever worked with a coach before, and they don't know what it is. And so they don't know anything about credentialing. They don't know anything about any of those kinds of things. So don't make this decision based on the market and what they think, because they don't know anything about it. We're in an unregulated industry. You can coach without being certified, frankly. Now, what do you choose, a professional organization or training based on? What I would base it on is two things, and it's going to be for you. Developing your own skills. That's what you're going to base it on, is because both of these are pointing it at you, based on your own skills. And I would also say, if you can come into a relationship in a community of coaches that you can stay encouraged with and challenged with. So that's really what it's going to come out of, is what you get out of it personally. Because your market, whoever you're going to work with, your clients, get nothing out of any of those things, because they're never going to research it and they don't really know. They're going to, everything that they know about coaching, whether you are a good coach or a bad coach or anything else, they won't even know the difference. They will get it from you, because they're fully going to become educated on coaching by what you do or by what you don't do or whatever. So that's pretty much the only experience that they're going to have. They're not going to fire you and hire another coach. You're going to be it for their life. So base those decisions on you and what you believe will help you get to the next level. You know, what benefit and value, like we were saying earlier, what benefit and value does any program or organization bring to you? That's how you make the decision. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Let's see. Thank you for a good session. It's boosted my confidence to become a life coach and add value to my abilities. Excellent, you're welcome. Satomi says, are there any other webinars offered like this one that we can check out? We usually have a Thursday one that's based on how to coach part-time when you're still working full-time. And there's some other webinars that we will do every now and then, but those are usually these are usually our number one workshops that we do. Desiree says, is the Jumpstart program self-paced? It is. Everything that we do is self-paced, because everybody's got different irons in the fire, different priorities, and everybody's a different kind of learner. Jumpstart does require you to still be in it for 3 months, regardless of how fast you go through the program or whatever. And Jumpstart's actually much more involved and has a lot more material than the life coach certification course, because again, it's a dynamic program, so we're always adding new things. There's new calls every week and all of that other stuff. And so everything that we do is self-paced. And so it's very reasonable for people to be able to get up and going really quickly. But we do have some students who stick around for longer than 3 months. And if you use that discount code we offered you today, you'll perpetually get that discount. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see. Jerry says, I'm most interested in wellness coaching. Will your program offer insight in this area specifically? We don't do a wellness coaching certificate. You're certified as a life coach, so you'll have a CLC. Coaching's coaching. So true coaching has the same competencies that you learn, whether you're going to be an executive coach, relationship coach, or whatever. The competencies are the same. With wellness, here's the thing, is that there's two sides of wellness coaching, okay? There are a lot of people who do wellness that we probably shouldn't call it coaching, because in a lot of cases, people who are saying that they are wellness coaches are actually telling people what to do for their health, and they're telling people how to diet and all those other things. And so in many cases, wellness coaching isn't really coaching, it's more consulting. And so that's really, they're very different things. Consulting and coaching are very different things. But coach is a trendy term. So a lot of people who you'll hear people say, well, I'm a real estate coach. Well, what do? Well, I tell people what to do. Well, you're not really a coach, you're a consultant. So that's kind of a different kind of thing. Now, I do believe that people can create a program that helps people while at the same time they're offering coaching throughout the program. And so you can justify it in that kind of way. Kind of like destiny coaching. I do a lot of that. And so there's tools and things that people will work through in a programmatic kind of way that's about 12 weeks long, and I will coach them as they're going through those tools. Now, the thing isn't telling them this is what you're going to do, but there are tools to help people uncover their destiny and those kinds of things. So in that sense, it is coaching in that kind of way. So we don't offer programs for people to be able to do anything. You're going to earn a CLC, and you can utilize that for whatever niche that you choose. So hopefully that makes sense for you. Ashley says, thank you very much. It clears up a lot. Excellent. You're welcome. Should I advertise as a life coach or just a coach? I know you said that we are selling our results and not coaching, but you have to advertise it somehow. So how should you? Well, what is the result that you're going to bring to people? You do choose a niche. So life coaching, what I would say, life coaching seems to be really broad, and people can't, coaching's just intangible anyway. When you say life coach, I can't grasp it. So one of the ways that you can make coaching tangible, first thing is choosing a niche. So if I'm a relationship coach, if I am a startup business coach, I have really narrowed it for people, and people understand that defines it a little bit more. But the result is what really makes people, because again, coaching, no one really understands what it is. Let's think about this. If I was selling insurance, no one sells insurance. I might be an insurance salesman, but I don't really sell insurance, because no one, at the end of the day, if most of you, if I said, hey, how much is your coverage on your insurance, could you tell me? Almost no one on this call would be able to tell me, because that's not what they bought. They bought peace of mind. They might not even know how much their coverage is or anything else. They might say, well, I have full coverage. Well, what does that really mean? They didn't buy that. The insurance salesman sold them peace of mind. So they sold them the result. We're counting on the fact that you're a good driver and you're never going to need this. But if you do, we've got you covered. Peace of mind. That's what they sell. So when we're selling as coaches, what is the result that we're bringing? You have more meaningful relationships. You have more intimacy in your life with your spouse than you did before, or any number of things. So that's what we're really selling. So I do highly encourage choosing a niche, because it clarifies and defines what you do a lot better than coaching does. And then you can further define that by how you describe your result. You know, like I can think that we had one of our coaches, they were a breakthrough coach for creators. That's kind of the way that they define themselves. And they're like, oh, well, that helps me clarify it that much more. When somebody says that, it's like, oh, for creatives, well, I know who they work with and I know what they do with them. And then they can sell the result of what they do. You know, I help you overcome creative blocks and finally finish that project that you've been working on or been dreaming about for years, or something like that. So hopefully that makes sense. We go over that in great detail in Jumpstart, just so that you know. I can only kind of generally answer questions, but we really bring our coaches through a process to really define that. Jerry says, got it, thank you. Anna Marie says, are you familiar with Six Star and their life coach training program? No, I'm not. Sorry. Desiree says, thanks. Ashley says, with regards to setting fees, Trinidad's culture tends to do comparisons. If a medical doctor charges $300 for a visit, and similarly, a counseling psychologist charges $300 to $400, that's approximately 42 to 57 USD for me to be able to charge anything near to what you're suggesting. I would have to go on the global market. Well, you do have that option. We do have some of our coaches who do go on a global market and charge things in that way. So there's no limits, obviously, once you go past that. Two things that I would say about any market that you're living in. One is that you're always going to find people who can afford what you do, regardless of what market that you're in. Okay, so and I would rather have 5 clients than 30 any day, and I can become a 6-figure coach off of 5 clients. I've done that. So So for you, that really is going to mean what clients that you're choosing. And secondly, that everything is relative as well with regard to cost of living. I totally get that. I literally wrote earlier, I think on Monday, a lot of coaches will say, I live in a small town. Can I be a successful coach if I live in a small town? Do I need to be in a big city? Well, here's the thing is, um, to what I use as an example is that in Abilene, Texas, let's say that you make $50,000 a year in Abilene, Texas, but you move to my city, which is San Diego, which is one of the highest has one of the highest costs of living in the country. It's number 10 in terms of the top 10 cities as far as highest cost of living. San Diego is one of them. So so people might be making more money, but quite frankly, to have the same cost of living that where you were making 50,000 in Abilene, Texas, you'd need to make 78,000 in San Diego. So all of that stuff is relative. So that is a really good point that you make, is that honestly, that part is all relative. The other argument that I would also say is that you can also find people who will be more than willing to pay your fee regardless of what it is. And maybe you don't, and you do have a choice to not limit it to a certain group of people, or not limit it to only the city that you live in, and go global if you wanted to do that. So those are all options. And so, and I would say that if I lived in, let's say that I lived in I don't know, a small town, because we actually have some coaches that have been in like Nigeria and stuff like that. Let's say if I'm in a town in Nigeria, am I going to charge $300 US there to those local people? What's the cost of living going to look like? Would I be able to, I would say there's probably somebody who could actually charge my fee. We have coaches from all over the world. It's amazing how they can even afford to get certified, even with the fees that we have. So that's one thing that I'd argue, is that there's always going to be somebody. The other side is that I would say, well, you know what? I can be one of the most wealthy people in my city in a different place of the world, because I'm charging the same that attorneys would be charging, doctors would be charging, those kinds of things. So you're definitely right in this, in that thinking. So hopefully that's helpful. I already naturally coach some friends and family members. What if they choose not to pay me because I haven't charged them in the past? How do I handle that? I wouldn't coach anybody who won't pay me. That's the simple thing for me. What I would say, and there's different ways that you can handle things. For one, I'm never going to do free coaching, because that doesn't actually help people. They'll never get change out of free coaching. That's why I don't do it. What I did, and I didn't do a bunch of free coaching before I started charging for it, but what you can do is to say, hey, you know what? I've decided this is going to be my career, and the free coaching stops at this point. That's what you can do. You can have a hard line in the sand. Hey, I've appreciated this, but this is going to be my livelihood now. And line in the sand past this date. That's probably the simplest way and the most diplomatic way that you can do that, because I'm always going to say, if you value it, then you'll pay for it. And if you don't value it, you won't get any change. That's really the way that I would look at it. You're not a beggar. You don't owe anyone free coaching. You don't owe your family free coaching. You don't owe your friends free coaching. And what I would say in general, because this is one thing that I'm kind of passionate about, and I'm not knocking your family or friends. I just want everybody to hear this. Friends should not expect discounts from other business people. They should actually want to, if you value that relationship and value what that person does, you should be more willing to pay that person a premium than someone that you don't know. That's the way that I firmly believe it. If we really value and we're not using people for what we can get out of them, then we should pay them more than anyone. If someone is doing something, same thing that I would say, because we've had people who came in and they come from a religious culture, and they're like, oh, well, people don't want to pay anything. They think that I should do what I do for free because I'm doing it for God or I'm doing it for a noble purpose. Listen, if somebody's doing something for a noble reason, that much more, I want to give them more money than anyone. Hey, if you're a Mother Teresa going to another nation, I want you to have more money than anybody on the planet because I know you're going to do the right thing with it. So why don't we, what is this messed up mindset that we have that we'll pay, it's kind of like, oh, we're going to be mad because an athlete's making $1 million a week at whatever they're doing and they're holding out for more money. And we're like, oh, that's wrong. And they're dropping $20,000 at a club the night after the game or something. We're like, oh, I hate this kind of stuff. But we still watch it. We still watch those sports and we still cheer them on and those kinds of things. I think our values are out of whack truly in our culture. And it's like, okay, well, let's reward the people who are doing it for all the right reasons then. Let's flip it. Let's not make people who are doing noble things starve. People who work at nonprofits or whatever, let's not make them struggle and beg for money. Let's reward them. Let's say, man, they are extraordinary human beings, and let's give them everything that they need to be able to thrive. That's my mindset on it, and it's really important, and again, that starts with ourselves. Cool. All right. Well, we are in overtime. Hey, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Again, if you want a link to the replay, Paul at iLifeCoachTraining.com. If you want that discount code, it's good for 3 days. I know most of you will work on that in the next 24 hours. So send me that email and I'll get that code to you immediately and you can jump in. Mary, whatever you need to do, whatever your next step is, you already know what you need to do. You don't really need any how-tos. You just need what my mom would say growing up in the South is you need some gumption. Marry that thing with purpose. Don't allow your heart to be disengaged. Get the change that you want in your life and take the steps that you need to take. Hey, have a great rest of your week. Take care.